Welcome everyone to our 8th series of Shara B'Tachon with Devorah, Leah, and Andrusier. We always like to start off with giving because how we give, that's how Hashem will give to us. Let's give generously so Hashem will give us generously. I'm putting some coins in the Tzedakah box. Please join me from home. We're going to say Tehillim now for that all the hostages should come home immediately. Hashem should bring them home, and he should protect all the Chayalim and Chayalot and the entire Israel and all the Jews around the world. So I'm going to say Psalm Chaf, Kapitel Chaf. Lam Natseach, which is Psalm 20. Lam Natseach Mizmar LeDavid, Yancha Adonai B'Yam Sarah, Yisagevcha Shem Elahei Akayv, Yishlach Ezracha Mikaidesh. Umitzian Yisadecha Yiskar Kol Min Chaysecha Ve'lascha Yidash Nasela. Yitain Lecha Chilva Vepcha V'chol Tascha Yimalei. Niranina Bishua Secho V'Shem Eloheinu Nidgo Yimalei Adonai Kol Mishal Secha. Ata Yidaiti Ki Ashia Adonai Mishicha Yanehu Mishmei Kachai Dikvurai Seishai Yiminai. Ela V'Racha V'Ela V'Asusim V'Anachnu B'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Nasker. Hema Karu V'Nafalu V'Anachnu Kamnu V'Nisaydad. Adonai Hashia Hamelach Yanenu V'Yam Karenu. We're now going to have Devorah, Leah, and Andrusier share with us. She is an addiction recovery coach and a Shara B'Tachon enthusiast. Welcome back to series number 8.
Hi, everybody. It's really great to be back. Excited to be teaching again. We had a little bit of a break for Shavuos, so I'm happy that we're all back here together. We are actually on page 27, but we're going to go back a little bit to page 17 because I wanted to share something there. So when it talks about the end of page 16 and the beginning of end of page 16, where it talks about the second manner in which a person who has bitachon is superior to an alchemist. The alchemist needs to perform certain actions and procedures and be able and spend time and hard work and inhaling fumes and all kinds of things like that are not good for him. Conversely, it says a person who relies on God is secure from any mishaps in the present and also feels secure that no bad will happen to him in the future. This is because he believes that anything that happens to him is from God and will therefore be a cause of joy and happiness. His sustenance will come from him to him in a restful and calm, peaceful manner. So I did not share the story because I felt like a lot of people probably know it, but it's a beautiful story, and I think stories are important for multiple reasons. Firstly, our brains can't concentrate. It's becoming less and less with the new social media and everything that's out there. It used to be that we can concentrate for 10 minutes at a time. So if you do a little story or a little personal share in between, it breaks up the class and you're able to refocus. But on a deeper level, the reason for stories is we all text and drive, and none of us should. It's super, super dangerous. And someone can tell you and teach you all the reasons why it's dangerous to text and drive. They can even send you some really scary videos of texting and driving. And after the videos, you may not text and drive for 2 days, but again, you're right back into it. When we tell a story, you're not just intellectually understanding the concept, it's embedding itself in your heart. So very often you'll go to a speech and you'll hear a speaker and they speak for 30 to 45 minutes and you walk away from the speech and someone will say to you, how was it? Amazing. The person spoke fantastic. Okay, tell me what he said. And the only thing that we do remember is the story. And when we remember the story, we remember the concept that's attached to the story because it becomes a part of us. So we're going to start here and we're going to talk about a very famous character in our world, in the Jewish world, which was Nachum Ish Gamzu. Nachum, the man who would say, Gamzu Litova. This too is for the good, no matter what happened to him. So the story of Nachum Ish Gamzu goes as follows. He was sent on a delegation to the Roman emperor. And on his trip, the Jewish community collected all kinds of golden coins and jewels and whatever they had because they wanted to expel them from the land. So they said they're going to send Nachum Ish Gamzu with a delegation to the Roman emperor with this big chest of jewels. So he travels and he's almost at the emperor, but they stop for the night at an innkeeper's home, at an innkeeper's place. Nachum Ish Gamzu and his crew, they go to sleep. He wakes up in the morning, he takes his trunk, and he heads out to meet the emperor. He gets to the emperor, and they set him up, and he comes in, and he says, here, this is a gift from the Jewish people. We want you to have this gift. The emperor opens up the box, and the box is filled with dirt. What happened? While Nachum Ish Gamzu was staying at the innkeeper's place, he saw that he was coming in for a delegation and decided he should check that trunk. He emptied out the trunk of all the jewels he stole from him, and he filled it up with sand. Now, he's standing in front of the Roman emperor, and he's coming there to ask to show lenience to the Jewish people, to beg on their behalf. And they open up this chest, and what is in this chest is a pile of sand. And Nachum Ish Gamzu is standing there, and he's completely calm, and he's completely okay, because he knows this too is for the good. So Eliyahu Navi appears as one of the advisors there, and he says to the emperor, do you think that the Jewish people would come all the way here to beg for you for lenience and for compassion and bring you a trunk full of sand and dirt that's not worth anything? It's probably just like the sand that Avraham Avinu used back in the day when he had to fight the 4 kings. It says that the sand that he picked up turned into mighty swords and daggers. So the emperor said, okay, I'm at war right now. Let's take this chest of sand and see if indeed it's the same type of sand that Avraham Avinu was able to vanquish and conquer those 4 kings. And exactly that's what happened. He sent the sand to his warriors, and they were able to vanquish their army. So this is just such it's a cute little story, but it's so meaningful. Firstly, he didn't check the box before he left the innkeeper. Like if we stay in a hotel and we leave our wallets or our jewelry somewhere before we leave the hotel, before we're going to go out, we make sure that the safe is locked and that everything is still there. He didn't do that because he was we talked about bitachon being on the spectrum. It's not an all or nothing, but he was where like the ultimate man needs to be, that even during stress, even when it makes sense to be terrified, to be scared, to be stressed, to have anxiety, that he was standing there very, very calmly and knew that God was going to protect both him, the delegation, and the entire Jewish people of that state, of that regime, or wherever it was that they lived. So, okay. The next one that we're also going to flush out a little bit more until we go back to page 27 is the third manner in which a person who has bitachon is superior to the alchemist. The alchemist needs to be secretive of his ingredients, because if someone else finds out what his recipe is, he will have competition and he will no longer be able to make the amount of money that he's been making. And you contrast that to someone who has bitachon in Hashem, and all we want to do is share it. Like I started learning this, and all I wanted to do, and all I want to do today is share it. And I need to be very clear on how to share it. If you're teaching a class, beautiful. It's a beautiful way to share it. When you are standing with someone who is suffering, our bitachon, and I'm going to probably reiterate this multiple times until we finish the book, our bitachon is ours. But when someone comes to me and says, hey, I'm really struggling right now, it's not the right time to say, well, you know, if it's going on, it means that it's really good for you, because that's insensitive and hurtful and not compassionate. What we do is we sit with that person, hold them, carry them for however long is needed. And then when they're a few months out from their challenge, you are able then to talk to them about bitachon. We have a woman in our community whose granddaughter is very, very ill. And according to all the doctors, there's no hope. 0, 0, no hope. There's a Tehillim chat that runs 24/7. They're doing everything that they can. We just went to an Amen party that they did. And when I was at the Amen party, I was speaking to the grandmother. So the grandmother is suffering for her grandchild, And she's also suffering for her daughter because she's watching how her daughter is suffering. And I had just learned something new in bitachon, and I wanted to share it with her. So I waited. I didn't do it at the party, but I sent her a message and I said, because you are so connected to Hashem, although normally I would not do this, I'm going to do this with you. She called me back yesterday. And what I said to her was, I know that you are in a very difficult place, and her bitachon is strong in every aspect of her life, other than this, because the doctors have said there is zero chance, there's no hope. We're doing all this, but there's no hope. And I said to her, what I learned is as follows. Bitachon is like a water faucet. We turn the faucet on and the water runs. When there's a clog in the faucet, what happens? The water is not coming through anymore, but what's happening behind the clog is the pressure is building. The pressure is building. And when the clog is finally released, there isn't the same regular flow of water. There's an initial like burst of water. What is that? When we liken that to bitachon, is for the most part, I am flourishing and I'm doing well and I'm strong in my bitachon in Hashem. I believe that everything that God does is for the good. And then on a Wednesday, I hear something or something happens and I'm like down, crashed on the floor. And I'm like, how is this possible? I've been learning this. I've been internalizing. How is it possible that I'm back on the ground? Like I thought my bitachon was good. So what happens then is I have a clog. I have a clog in my bitachon. And if in that space of the clog, where it's not rational for me to retrust in Hashem, because everything just looks dark and I'm able to clear that clog, the blessings, the miracles that we get are no longer needed to be through within nature. So we talked about in one of our earlier classes that in order for God to become accessible to us, he had to contract himself multiple times. When in the clog, in the challenge, when there is no hope, and I say there is no hope, Hashem. The doctors have said there is no hope, but Jewish people do not subscribe to that. Until a person is breathing, there is hope. So within that space, I am able to reconnect to my bitachon. The contractions are not as necessary. And Hashem is able to show us miracles that are outside of nature. So I wanted to share that because I think it's a very important message. Also, what is it that keeps us in our strength and of our bitachon? As Jewish people, we have values, very strong values and beliefs. The stronger our values and beliefs are, the more straight we stay on the straight and narrow path. Because if I believe what I'm learning and I believe what I'm teaching and I believe everything that Hashem and all of the ones underneath Hashem, all the messengers of the message, if I believe all of that, it keeps me targeted. So we know if you have a very strong why, if you have a very strong, passionate why, then the how is never questioned. If I have a wedding and I want to be 10 pounds less than I am right now, that why I want to look good at the wedding is so strong for me that I'm not concerned about the high, because I'm going to do it in whichever way I need to. I'll starve, I'll go to exercise, I may do unhealthy things for myself, but there's no question that if I believe or want something so strongly, the how is never in question. So what are we supposed to do? Who are we, the Jewish people? Is what we need to do is always have a purpose. Viktor Frankl wrote the book, Man's Search for Meaning. It's a book about the Holocaust. It briefly tells the story of the Holocaust, so you have a frame of reference of what he's going to talk about. And essentially, I mean, I've read the book probably 10 times, and I could read it again. But essentially what he said is who were the ones who were able to survive is the ones who had purpose in their lives while they were in the camp. The ones who had meaning. So I don't want to compare us in any way to those barbaric, we don't even call them animals, monsters. But my son was in Gaza now 3 times. And he and his friends, what they talk about a lot is when they go into Gaza, where they stay is emptied out Gazan homes. And he said to me like this, every single Gaza home that we were in and that all of the other soldiers have reported, they have pictures of their Allah. They have pictures of everything that is meaningful and passionate to them. What has the Jew done? The Jew today in our Western culture is we're doing exactly the opposite. We're veering away from our Yiddishkeit. We want to be more like everybody else. We want to fit in. And that's how we've been living our lives for a very, very long time. On October 7th, our enemies told us who we are. Exactly the same way that Hitler, Yamach Shemai, told the world, if you're even 1/4 Jewish, I don't care if you have payas down to your toes, or if you're completely secular and you have nothing to do with God, you have 1/4 blood of Jew, you're a Jew. So on October 7th, our enemies told us, you guys are Jews. Now, what is our responsibility? Because they told us that we're Jews. So I saw this horrific thing on a panel somewhere that there were a couple of Jews who wanted to renounce their Judaism. We no longer want to be Jewish people. So firstly, that's not an option. If you're born a Jew, you die a Jew. But more than that, who are we? Today, we have to be unapologetically Jewish. We have to walk the streets representing a Jewish person and how they are supposed to live. So we don't want to keep ourselves secret. Now that the world has flipped very publicly, and we know exactly who cares about us and exactly who would not mind if we no longer existed at all, because there is that clarity. The need for political correctness is no longer there. It's no longer there. We can now speak our truth. And last week, in our last class, we talked about the soldiers are on the front lines over there in Israel doing what they need to do, and we are on the front lines here. And it doesn't mean that you have to be the most religious Jew. So this class, what is the purpose of this class? When we have bitachon, we are not ashamed. We are not embarrassed. We are not uncomfortable with who we are. We don't care if somebody looks at us the wrong way. You're right. You're right. I was in a store and I had a little incident with somebody, and he said to me, you and your Jewish star. And I turned around and I looked at him and he said, yeah, you're absolutely right. Me and my Jewish star, because I am an unapologetic Jew. And that's what we need to do today. So it doesn't matter. We talked about that bitachon is for everyone. So is this very important time. It's very similar to the times of Purim, where the entire world wanted to destroy the Jewish people. The entire world, minus a few small minorities, would be very happy if the Jewish people ceased to exist. We know, gratefully, thank you, Hashem, that will never happen. But we, no matter what, I'm wearing a wig, someone else is wearing a baseball hat, someone else isn't covering their hair at all. It doesn't matter what your level of observance is. When we walk the streets, we walk as unapologetic Jews, and we smile at someone, and we say a kind word, and we're respectful to the people who bag our bags in the supermarkets. That is how we change the world's perception of us. And more than that, we no longer care about the world's perception of us. Because when I'm good with me, it doesn't matter what other people think about me. When I'm good with me, what other people think about me is none of my business. I don't want to know. So the stronger we are and the more confident we feel, the more we are able to show up as the people that we are meant to be. And now that we brought in a little bit of Israel, I just want to mention in the most heartbreaking way, we lost 11 soldiers over the weekend. It's devastating. You know, we look at a picture of a soldier and we see a soldier. That soldier has parents, grandparents, siblings. Some of them are married. Some of them have children. Some of them never began to start their real lives yet. And we lost these beautiful people who are immediately going straight to Shemayim. I heard a story and I heard it quoted to the Lubavitch Rebbe, but I've also heard it quoted by others. But I will share the story. There was a woman living in a lot, and she reached out to a Rebbe, we'll say, and she said, I need to go and daven in a holy place. I'm going through some difficulty, and I need to go pray in a holy place. But there are no holy places in a lot. What should I do? And the answer was, if there are no holy places around you, you go and you pray at the grave, at the cemetery of a Jewish soldier, because they died al Kiddush Hashem, for the sanctification of God's name, and they are immediately in the highest of heights. So Hashem should absolutely help us avenge their deaths. Their memory should be a blessing. This war should be over quickly and speedily, with us getting the job done, with us doing what we need to do, not being afraid, because Hashem is with us. And our Rebbe said never to be afraid, politicians, any of those things, because we have the most powerful entity caring for us. Okay, so now we will go back to where we were on page 27. So we had finished all the 10 different ways in which an alchemist is, which someone who has bitachon is greater than the alchemist. And now what he's going to do, I'm sorry, we're going to go back to, yes, page 26. Okay, he's now giving us more advantages as to what bitachon has. So I don't know if any of you have noticed, but the introduction to this book is fairly lengthy. What he's trying to do in the introduction is whet our appetites, give us a small little taste of what bitachon is going to do for me. Why do I want to read the rest of this book? You know, you buy a car or whatever it is that we purchase. What kind of deal are you giving me? What am I going to get for it? What are the perks? So in the introduction, he's getting us to feel what life could be like if I actually had this inside of me. So now we're going to continue on. We actually went over this, but we're just going to read it again and go into that. He also, okay, we're on the top of page 26. He also has fewer worries about guarding his money and taking care of it. As has been said regarding one of the pious men, that he would say, may God save me from a scattering of the mind. They asked him, what is the scattering of the mind? He replied, were I to have money at the port of each river and in the heights of each city. This is what the sages of blessed memory meant when they said, the more possessions, the more worry. And when they also said in Pirkei Avot, who is truly wealthy is a person who is content with his lot. So once we started talking about this, once a person starts to amass an abundance of wealth, they start diversifying. They now have a business in Dubai, and they have one in Israel, and they have one in America. So when they go to sleep at night, their brain, they have a scattering of the mind because there's so much going on that there isn't a space for peace. And here when it says that a person who trusts Hashem will not have the scattering of the minds. Okay, so one who is not trusting in God has a scattering of the mind. One who is trusting in God does not have a scattering of the mind. So the story told of the Tzemach Tzedek. Tzemach Tzedek was the third Chabad Rebbe, and he had a student, and his name was Chaim Zelig. Chaim Zelig comes to the Tzemach Tzedek, and he says to him, I'm a simple innkeeper. I do my business. I pay my bills. But now the Paretz, the landlord, came to me and he said to me, I have 30 days to vacate the property and that's it. And I need a bracha. I don't know what to do. I need help. So the Tzemach says to him, no problem. I'm going to send you to a guy in the community named Beryl, and he is going to help you. Now, Chaim Zelig knows that in their community, there's two Beryls, and they refer to them as the Grace Beryl and the Kleine Beryl, the big Beryl and the little Beryl. The big Beryl was a kind man, but he wasn't affluent. He didn't have a lot of money, but he was a good man. The Kleine Beryl was the one that was extremely wealthy. So he says to Chaim Zelig, I'm going to send you to Beryl, and he's going to help you. So the Chaim Zelig opens up the note as he leaves the room, expecting it to be the Kleine Beryl, the rich Beryl, and he sees that the Tzemach Tzedek wrote the Grace Beryl, the big Beryl. So he goes to the Tzemach Tzedek's son, and he says to him, is it possible that your father made a mistake? And he says, it's absolutely impossible. If my father said you go to the Grace Beryl, that's who you go to. So he makes his way to the big Beryl, knocks on the door, sees that he himself, this guy, this big Beryl, also does not live financially well, but he's okay. And he comes in and he says, the Tzemach Tzedek said, I'm losing my inn and you're going to be able to help me. He's like, I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to help you, but come inside. Let me give you a room. Let me give you food to eat. And he's there for 2 nights, 3 nights. Nothing's changing. 4th night, there's a huge storm, an icy, stormy blizzard. And there's a crazy knock at the door. And the big Beryl opens up the door to his home. And who is it? It's the Paretz, the same landlord that wanted to take the land back from Chaim Zelig. And he's freezing and he says, we were out hunting and I lost my crew and I'm freezing. So the Grace Beryl says, come inside my house. I'll take care of you. He gives him a room. He feeds him. He got a little sick because he was out in the cold for so long. He's recovering. After a few days, he's ready to leave. And he says to the big Beryl, you took care of me so beautifully. You were so kind. You were so respectful. Anything that you ask for, I will do for you. So he says to him, you know what? I actually need something from you. I have a friend named Chaim Zelig. And he had a Paretz. And the Paretz said, the landlord said, I'm taking away the land from you in 30 days. Now it's already day 22. And you happen to be that Paretz. I want you to give him back his inn. So he says, not only will I give him back his inn, but I'm going to allow him to be there 3 years with free rent. As this is going on, Chaim Zelig comes out of his room and he's overjoyed and he's very grateful and thankful. But he wants to know from the landlord, why did you throw me out? I pay my bills on time. I'm a very good guy. We never had an issue. Why did you want to throw me out? So the landlord says to him, at this point, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but I borrowed a tremendous amount of money from a wealthy man in this community. And he called me up and he said, my brother-in-law is out of business and my sister is very stressed out. I need you to find my brother-in-law something to do so he can have a parnasa, a livelihood. So he said, I don't really have anything except for Chaim Zelig's inn. I can take Chaim Zelig's inn and give it to your brother-in-law. So the small Beryl says, do whatever you need to do. I need you to take care of my brother-in-law. So originally, if you go back to the beginning of the story, what did Chaim Zelig want? He thought that the Tzemach Tzedek made a mistake and that he was going to go and see the small Beryl, the rich one, because in his head, it made sense that the wealthy one would be able to help him. So not only wasn't it the wealthy one who was able to help him, but the wealthy one is the one who actually caused his downfall. So how do we relate that to us is so often we put our trust in other entities. This is the doctor that's going to save me. And yes, the Torah says we should get the best doctors because each doctor is accompanied by a malach. So if it's a specialist doctor, you have a specialist malach, angel with that doctor. But when we forget and we put our trust in the doctor and forget that the doctor is just the conduit to receive the blessing from Hashem, that's where we go wrong. It's not that we shouldn't go to doctors. Of course we should go to doctors. Thank goodness for modern medicine. So many people are living their lives in beautiful ways because Hashem allowed for modern medicine to take place. The only difference is that I need a favor from this one. I need some help from that one. No problem. We have people in our life. We're supposed to be with each other in connection. But what I always need to remind myself of, that person who just did something kind for me, it's because Hashem allowed that to happen. So when I continue to understand that there's a direct link but between every single person and however they behave towards me, I am still connected to Hashem. Okay, now we're going to go back to where we were up to, which is financial responsibility on the bottom of page 27. Among the Torah benefits of bitachon is that the money of a person who trusts in God will not disturb him from trusting him, and neither will his wealth or lack of it cause him to sin. This is because he will not rely on his money. Rather, he considers it as a deposit which has been instructed him to use in certain ways and for certain purposes for a designated time. So we talked about this in our last class. I wanted to share the story of Devorah and Rav Meir. Devorah was an incredible tzaddikus, an absolute eshes chayil, and her husband came home from shul. They had twins, and their two boys had died on Shabbos. So her husband comes home from shul, and he makes Havdalah. Right before he makes Havdalah, she says to him, if somebody came to me and lent me their jewels, and 2 years go by, and they come back and they say, we lent you our jewels, but now we want them back. Do I need to return those jewels? And her husband said, of course you need to return them. A person gave it to you for a certain amount of time. You absolutely need to return it to them. So she took him into the room where the two children were, and she showed him the two boys. What was she saying to him? Exactly what it says here, but not about financial. So this is a level that is extremely high, and please God, we should all be able to attain that level. I personally am not at that level in any way, shape, or form, but I am hoping to be able to continue through revealed blessings to get to that level. But Hashem gave us a deposit. He's allowing us to be his banker. So when we say the word tzedakah, we in English, we call it charity. The connotation of charity is, I am such a good person. I am going to give you help with whatever you need. You are the needy person. I'm the one who's able to help. I'm so kind, and I'm giving it to you, even though you don't really deserve it. The shorish word of tzedakah is tzedek, which means right, just, ethical. So when we truly believe that everything that we have in our lives, and right here, right now, we're talking about financial success, comes from Hashem, it's not here, I'm giving you this out of the goodness of my heart. I am sharing Hashem's blessing with another person because Hashem gave me this in order for me to be able to share. Now, Hashem doesn't want us to give away all of our money. He doesn't want us to feel bad and say, oh my goodness, there are people suffering. I should give everything. Hashem wants us to be able to take care of ourselves because when we are taken care of, we are better able to help others. But we must always remember that if I have something positive in my life, it's because Hashem allowed it to be put there through my effort, through my work, not through me sitting back and relaxing, but still because Hashem allowed it. Then when we're giving from a different place. Then I don't necessarily need a very big thank you or appreciation, because it's not me being so kind, giving to you who really doesn't deserve. It's me sharing a bracha, a blessing that I have from God. So I want to just let you guys know, and we're going to stop the class here. I spoke with Chaya about this. This class, I'm really grateful that we're doing it recorded and that everybody gets to listen at their own leisure and you can repeat. And repetition is always good with something like this. But it's also really super important to have integration. So when we finish the introduction, I've asked Chaya, and we'll do this after every chapter that we finish, is that we will have a live class where you can all ask questions, give your feedback, have a back and forth conversation, because so much comes from those questions. So while you're learning and while you're listening to the recordings, if there's something that doesn't make sense for you, or if you have a question, or if it's something, a subject that you do understand, but you want to understand more of it, write them down or send them to Chaya. And when we have that class, we will be able to talk about all of this and continue. So thank you very much for lesson number 8. Can't believe we're already up to number 8. And we will see you next time.
Thank you so much, Devorah, Leah. That was excellent. We always like to end off with a quote. So here goes. This is a quote of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. You cannot add more minutes to the day, but you can utilize each one to the fullest. I thought that was very profound. Okay, we do this class weekly. Yes, weekly. We dedicate this to our grandmothers, Rivka Dina, Bas Yosef Yehuda, and Rachel Bela, Bas. And Rachel Bela, Bas Neir Zalman. I hope they're proud. I'm sure they're proud of us. We also love when you guys give feedback. So please, and you can share this class with anyone that you would like. And we have a YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Chaya Mink, ChayaMink, for awesome life journeys and stories of incredible speakers as well. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you shortly in a few days.